Welcome back, friends, to the shop. So today we're going to start the restoration on a really special hand plane. This was sent to me by one of my subscribers. This particular plane is the one that's been missing from my collection. It's a Stanley Bailey, a number 4, that's all complete and in good shape. Looks a little rusty, doesn't look very nice right now, but this is probably, if you were just going to have one, the number 4 is about as good as a guy's going to get. I know I've got a modern version of the number 4, the new reproduction that Stanley makes, that's not as good as the old ones, but it is my go-to plane. It's the one that I use more than anything else. So let's take this apart, and barring no unforeseen major damage, I think that this might turn into a really nice restoration. All right, guys, let's see what we got here. If you ever come across a Stanley Bailey plane, a number 4, boy, be sure and buy it if it's a reasonable price at a garage sale or an estate sale. These things, you know, I'm not the expert on them, and there's lots of different models, but some of them, you know, I've seen them go in used condition from as $150 and more sometimes. So this is the wood knob. This would have been, I think these would have been rosewood, the original ones. We'll see if that was original, but it looks to be. Look at the brass screw. That's all, and it's not chewed up there. No one's been ham-fisted with the improper screwdriver, so that's very clean. You know, a lot of these things have never really seen much use before. I mean, they just look really bad when they're rusty, but they've been sitting around for 120 years. Here's the cap. This would have been originally had a nickel plating on that, and that's in good shape. Some guys will use these to tighten the screws here. I don't know if that was a sanctioned deal from Stanley, but they can be broken on the tips there. But this looks like it's in good condition. It's got the cam, works great. And I'm going to show you a pain-free way to de-rust all this stuff with no labor. Here we have the iron and the chip breaker. And we can, this I think is typically what guys, I've done it before too. I get chastised every time I do that. I should probably quit doing that. But we can separate these. We want to separate everything before we de-rust. Looks like the original screw. The iron in good shape. Of course, Stanley right there. No one has beat on it. It's got some glue or adhesive on there. That's not a problem, but we'll clean this up. This will be just like brand new. Obviously hand sharpened. We can see the inconsistencies there. We'll fix that. Chip breaker looks good. We'll improve upon that. When we're done with this, it's going to work better than it did when it was brand new. Okay, so this is called, if memory serves, this is the frog. These can be kind of hard to get open. No, it's not bad. But again, everything looks very crispy and clean, or not marred up, chewed up. Let's see, well the frog will come loose. I don't know why they call that the frog. This here I think is the frog. It doesn't look like a frog, but we've got the adjuster there, and that's got a nickel coating on it as well. Looks like it's all nickel. Looks pretty good though, doesn't it? It's probably never been off. And then we have, I don't know what this adjustment screw, okay, so here's the worst part of this is that the handle, we might be able to salvage it. It's got a little crack on the top, but it's not broken or anything, and it's loose just because the screw hasn't been tightened. And look at that, we got that brass. Aren't those pretty? I love brass. Those look like they match. It's a little bit chewed up there from a screwdriver. Someone trying to tighten it and it's slipping out. We can clean that up. We'll fix that. That'll be nice. The handle, will we be able to use the handle? I think so. We have a little bit of a crack right there. We'll sand it down. It'd be nice to use the original handle. Even if keep the handles, even if they aren't good, and you can use them as a template to make a new one, but that's probably I'll bet that was original there. You can see the black. I wonder if that would have been painted black originally. And I don't know what this screw is for. Maybe one of you guys can tell me. I don't recall seeing this on any of my planes. Yeah, I don't know what that's for. It's got a strange spacer on it. Yeah, let me know in the comments, but it's clean. Probably never been off. And then, of course, we've got on the back side of the frog, we can disassemble. This piece here would be brass. I believe the adjuster. Let's see, how was it that we got those out of there? That's got a backwards thread on it. Will that come out of there? Do we need to get that out? It would be nice to get that. It has to come out. They have to assemble it, right? That's a nice piece, though. I think I believe that's solid brass. I just found that when you take this stuff all apart, you get the rust remover seems to just work better. Plus, you can polish it because we want this all to be like nice and shiny. I restored for my favorite planes, I restored a #1. I think it was a #1 Stanley. It had a lot of brass and steel. That's not coming off of there. It's just tight, I think. Don't want to put any tool. There we go. Don't want to put any tools on that. Oh, if I work it back and forth. There we go. We got it. Okay. Yeah, this has got a lot of, look, that is a beautiful piece there. That's going to polish up nice. And then we have this guy. Try not to let that screw slip. These style of, I don't know what this type of blade's called, but gunsmiths often use them. These type of screwdrivers, this is a made in England, a footprint screwdriver. They really bite and hold screws, and they don't tend to strip them out. So I like to use those footprint screwdrivers when I'm working with guns and things. And that's about basically it. That's probably as far as we need to take it apart. But I guess we could take this screw out too. And that's got nickel coating on it as well. Okay, so the thing that we don't know, the unknown thing is, of course, the base. This is probably, among the most important parts of it. What you're looking for, if you're going to buy a used one, is just any obvious cracking. Sometimes you'll see chips in there. I'd probably stay away from stuff like that, or any really deep gouging, or any sign that some guy has taken a belt sander to it or something. It's just hard to say until we put a straight edge on it. And the edges are square and no cracks or damages. Here you can see the #4 Bailey on there. But overall, it looks in good shape, made in USA. Yep, all right, let's derust it. Years ago when I was restoring these tools, I did all the rust removal by hand. And I don't do that anymore. I started using this Evapo-Rust. Actually, one of you guys sent me a gallon can of this, and I was so impressed with it, I bought this big one. I think it's worth it buying the big one if you're trying to de-rust stuff. Even your tools, if you left stuff like in your boat or your car or vice grips, you know how they get. You can just throw them in this basket, and it comes with the can. 24 hours, you take it out, and everything is just pristine. So it's worth it to me just to have the bucket and the can. And this little grate deal that they give you, it's tight enough, the holes, that you can put small screws and things and they don't fall through. So we'll just put all that stuff in there, of course, not the wood. And the frog. It doesn't seem to have anything, or it doesn't do any harm to the brass that I've ever noticed. All the screws and hardware, it just gets into those nooks and crannies. And that's it. That will sit now we'll let that sit overnight, and then we'll take it out. We'll see what happens. That'll be tomorrow. So, but this stuff is just fabulous for rust removal. All right. While that Evapo-Rust does its thing, I guess that opens a perfect segue for manly manners, huh? Let's open Manly Manners here and see what's going on and see if we can find something to help us in our, as we plod through life. So Manly Manners tells us on page 40, don't run away with the idea that there is nothing to do in the house and that your wife should therefore never be busy or tired. You work for a few hours at the office and come right away from it until the next day, but a woman's work is never done until bedtime, and then she lies awake and thinks of something she has left undone. You know, I just realized Manly Manners was written by a woman in 1913. Why is a woman giving instruction to men? I'm thinking back on some of the Manly Manners that we're reading here, and yeah, we've had some good and we've had some bad, but it's all from the perspective of the man needs to correct his behavior, and I see little or nothing in here of the woman correcting hers. Why haven't I picked up on this before? You know, I don't think that I want to read Manly Manners anymore. I think maybe we need to write our own Manly Manners from a man's perspective. That would seem more fitting to me. That's interesting. So I have, I'll tell you what. I don't know what it is. What's been happening this year with, I guess, just truths or things coming to me that I guess things that I feel like the blinders have been taken off my eyes into the spiritual realm. I feel like things that were fuzzy or I couldn't really get a handle on are now like snapping into focus. Mrs. W, is it breakfast time?
Food is ready.
I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that, guys. Mrs. W had told me she was making breakfast and I shouldn't have started the video. All right, so where were we? We were in the midst of triggering a whole lot of people. So I was thinking on the way back here, so I'm going to read something to you. Genesis, right? So this is after the fall. And God writes, your desire, referring to the women, your desire will be for your husband and he will rule over you. I think it's unbiblical. It is unbiblical for a man to be educated or led or taught by a woman. I think it's unnatural. There, I said it. I told Mrs. W that we were talking about Medicare the other day, or medical insurance the other day, which is really fun to make basically, we pay for our own health insurance, obviously, and where the amount that we pay monthly is enough to buy a pretty nice house. It's a house payment. With a massive deductible that's so high that we couldn't use it unless it was something catastrophic. It's just, I told her, I'm getting to the point now where I was like, why don't we just roll the dice? Why don't we just take that money that we're spending, drop it into a savings account, and if something happens, something happens. You know what? I mean, rather than just shelling that out, and it's ridiculous. So anyway, I told her, I said, I don't. If you're going to schedule an appointment for me, I don't want to see a woman doctor. I don't think women that are in the time of their life that they should be, that they're able to have children. I don't think they should be in these jobs. I don't think they should be doing them, and I don't think, as a rule, they do them as well as men do. There, I said it. I don't want to work for a woman. I've been in positions in the past where I've had to work for a woman, and I find that they don't make particularly good leaders. They're fine until as long as everything goes as planned. And as soon as something doesn't go as planned, they don't really have the ability, in my experience, to adapt very well like men do. And they fall apart, and oftentimes they cry. I've worked with them on the wildland firefighting ground, and I know you can make every excuse you want, and no one says anything because no one has the courage to say it. But the ones that I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot of them, didn't even come close to pulling their weight. They couldn't carry the tools. They couldn't do the physical work. They didn't have the stamina, and they were a liability to the crew, and the crew was less effective because of that. I've worked with them on the fire department, structural firefighting, with the same results. We talked about that in the past. And I just don't. I guess what's bringing this to a head is that I'm sick and tired of the inversion. You know what inversion is? The inversion is that propaganda, media, everything coming at us, flipping everything. The way things should be, the way things God intended them, and now are being flipped to the other way, where now the women are supposed to take on the dominant masculine role, and the men are supposed to take on the passive feminine role. And it's in everything. I was looking at an ad, there was a magazine Mrs. W had open here, and the woman sitting on the couch while the man is vacuuming. It's, I'll look at all the superhero movies, it's just ridiculous. You've got 90-pound women that's jumping and kicking and destroying all of these, military age guys. I don't need to get into it. It's so ridiculous, it's just offensive. So what do we do about it? Are we going to be able to change this? Are we going to be able to veto this or stop going to these movies? I guess I'm at the point now that I don't care anymore. I'm just not going to engage with it. I'm going to run my house the way I see fit, the way God intended it to be fit, and to be head of my household, and I'll deal with men. I'm not going to work for a woman. I'm not going to subject myself to a woman in any sort of leadership role. I'm not going to do it. I don't have to do it. I wouldn't work for a woman. I wouldn't be led by a woman, and I certainly wouldn't be taught by a woman in a religious setting or a church. If you have a woman pastor, and you're sitting in the pew and she's educating you and teaching to you, that's wrong. And that's something you need to extricate yourself from and get a check. And I'm just as guilty of you. I should have seen this earlier. And I don't, I bought into all of this hype, even when things were in plain sight. Even how many times have I been on wildland fires and had women around that just weren't getting it done? And instead of, and I don't even remember being resentful or just thinking, we have to be all accepting. And of course, heaven forbid we ever said anything, or heaven forbid we ever called them out on it and told them, we're doing more work because you are not able to do this work. If she wants to be there, she needs to do the same work, but I still don't think she should be in a leadership role because I don't think they make good leaders. It's just been my experience. I'm finally getting to the point where I don't care, and I am starting to contrast with what I see and what I've learned and what is actually happening in front of me versus all of the lies and the propaganda that have been fed into my brain since I was little. Yeah. So where does that leave us with manly manners? I think I'm done with manly manners. I think we need, as I said, we need to write our own manly manners, and I guess that is going to be written in future videos. That is the new medium. Manly manners probably would have been a series of YouTube videos back in the day if the technology would have been there. But now it's here, and I think advice for men needs to come from men and not from women.